Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. Retailers, shopping channels, and now even banks have tried to cancel myself and MyPillow. Well, during these times, your support has meant everything to us. So my employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you by passing the savings directly on to you. We're selling the best products ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have my standard size MyPillow, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. Or you can get custom fit with my premium queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now just $29.98. Or my king size, regular $89.98, now just $34.98. So go to mypillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive this exclusive offer. If you do it right now, I'm going to include a free gift with your purchase. Thank you and God bless.
This is Joseph Kahn, a former Amish guy from Wayne County, Ohio, kicking off the best podcast in all of the land, The Dogs.
Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Zach Kopp, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. As you can see, it's just me and Josh again today. Zach's stuck at work again. His job sucks. Justin's wife's in school again, so his schedule is really not great right now, too. We're trying to work our way through this rough period in Dogs Podcast history. We'll get through it with the help from all of you guys.
Yeah, all right. Episode 3 in a row here of Blake and Josh.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys like us. But a lot of stuff happened in the last week. Last week was kind of a filler episode for us. Not this week. We got a ton of stuff to get into. But before we do, got to remind you to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I made my first TikTok yesterday.
Yeah,
so
you did.
I popped my TikTok cherry. If we're allowed to say that on here.
well, hey, why not?
But, you know, that was pretty fun. I didn't get too much hate on there, so that was actually kind of nice. I was expecting to just get Mother F the whole time or something. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. You can also find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google if you prefer to just listen. Lastly, if you're looking for extra content, head to jointhedogs.com. Become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page. We had fantasy leagues in there. You get an extra episode every week. The After Hours episode is pretty much just anything what anybody wants to talk about. So if you guys just think we're cool dudes and you're wondering about our opinion on other things besides Browns football and the NFL, jump in there. We talk about everything from movies to comics to pretty much anything you can think of. We usually bring a Patreon member on, let them be on the episode with us. They bring a topic, we talk about it. So if you look like, you know, if you want to be part of the show in some way, get your thoughts in, get to know us a little bit, jump in there. It's a ton of fun. We give out prizes for the fantasy leagues. You get stuff if you're in it for a while. So it's just a really cool thing. If you're interested, jointhedogs.com, become an official Dog Pack member.
I will add to that, with the NFL draft coming up here and not too long, actually. It's kind of crazy to think about, but we are planning to do draft night coverage, I guess, here live from the studio. Last year we were on site at a local brewery, but this year we're going to be in the studio. And if you're a Dog Pack member, we're probably going to extend preferential treatment to you guys first to see if you want to come on during the draft and talk what's going on, talk about some of the picks and what you're looking for the Browns to do at 13 there.
Plus, if you just like football, especially Browns football, this group is where you want to be. It's 24/7, 365 nonstop talking about Browns football in the NFL. It never stops.
If you get your news like from any other, like another app or another news source for the Browns, you can pretty much stop.
Yeah.
Just join the Patreon group. I mean, these guys and gals keep, up to date, like to the second.
Yeah, they live for this.
Never miss a thing.
So if that's you, jump in there, join us. It's a ton of fun for everybody. So, like I said, it was kind of a big week for the NFL. We'll start off with some Browns news. We talked last week on the episode about David Njoku. The Browns were willing to pay him $10+ million a year for a new contract. Well, turns out we are going to be paying him about $10.9 million a year, but it's going to be on the franchise tag. Didn't come to an agreement for a long-term contract yet. What they said is they're hoping this is a placeholder to keep him in place until they can come to an agreement on a long-term contract. Now, I don't know how the NFL works. Now that they franchise him, can they not come to a deal till next year, or can they still come to a deal? I'm pretty sure they can still come to a deal.
I'm pretty sure they can. There might be a deadline.
Okay.
You know what? While we're talking about some things, I'll see if I can't vet that real quick.
It's been a busy week. I didn't have a tough time to do franchise tag research. I think it's a good move by the Browns. Clearly, they're invested in Njoku, and Njoku showed that he was invested in the Browns by firing his agent, hiring a new one to help him stay in Cleveland. So it's good for the Chief coming off, arguably his best season in the NFL so far. I think he really started to show what he could do if he's a centerpiece for the offense. He's an athletic freak. So I think it's good for the Browns. Well, the first thing I thought of when I saw this was Austin Hooper's days are numbered. But then it came out, it doesn't really make sense for the Browns to cut Austin Hooper.
No, not with the cap hit they would take doing so. It doesn't make any sense. They wouldn't save.
It's cheaper to keep him almost.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, between those two options, definitely cheaper to keep him.
So I think you're going to see all three tight ends on the roster, at least again this year. Now, the next season is where it could make more sense financially to get rid of Hooper.
Yeah, I think you're definitely looking at the last season of Austin Hooper on the Cleveland Browns. Unless
things go crazy this year.
Things go crazy, he balls out, whatever, but more than likely last season for Hoop.
So we're going to see more of Njoku, Bryant, and Hooper on the field. I would have to assume that Njoku is going to start being the number one guy. We didn't franchise tag him to make him third on the depth chart.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do we bring Austin Hooper in with all that money to be too? You know, no, I agree. I think this definitely says Njoku, we want you to be the guy. We're putting you in that position. It's kind of his to lose, I would imagine.
Yeah. I think what is funny is this is only the second time in Browns history that we've used the franchise tag.
Really?
Yeah.
Second time?
Second time.
Who was the first?
Take a guess.
Give me like an era. Give me like a...
from the time we came back until about, I don't know how long he's been gone.
Okay.
He's been gone at least getting close to 10 years now, I'm thinking. And we haven't replaced him yet.
Oh, Phil Dawson.
Phil Dawson.
No kidding.
So that tells you the state of the Browns 15, 20 years ago, by the way, that we were franchise tagging our kicker.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, most people are doing this to lock up their elite receiver that they just haven't been able to come to a deal with, or their quarterback. We were using it on Phil Dawson.
That's kind of funny.
But so this is only the second time in history that we've used the franchise tag. And I guess we'll see if we can come to a long-term deal with him. If not, he's at least going to be on the team for this year. And that's good. It's good for whoever our quarterback's going to be. If it's Baker, anybody else, the more weapons, the better.
All right. Hey, real quick, before you go on, it says that once the franchise tag is applied to a player, a team has until mid-July to reach a contract extension, or else that player spends the entire season on the franchise tag.
So we got a couple months.
So mid-July. Yeah, we got a little while. They can work on it.
Yep, for sure. Speaking of weapons for the Browns and whoever the quarterback's going to be, Calvin Ridley's not going to be one of them.
Nope.
We talked about this, I think, within the last month or so, as him being a potential trade target for the Browns to bolster the receiving core. Calvin Ridley suspended the entire season for betting on games. I guess he did a $1,500 parlay or something. And I've seen a lot of people talking about it's kind of weird that he would get an entire year suspended for betting on games when there's people who've been found guilty of domestic violence and they only miss 6 or 8 games. And I get the argument, but that doesn't, just because that is stupid doesn't make this one not stupid. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? You can't bet on the games if you're an active player in the league. And I know he wasn't playing that year, but you still can't do it. And he knows you can't do it. That's a big thing. I mean, it's literally keeping Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame in baseball.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be the same thing as using, known substances that are, banned in the NFL. If you know you can't do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's complaining and crying about, the punishment, but whoever is needs to understand that, like you said.
I mean, he's lucky. I mean, in all honesty, he's kind of lucky that he isn't banned from the league forever.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know. I don't know what the NFL handbook says about that, but
It goes to the integrity of the game. You can't have a player betting on the games. I bet you what saved him is the fact that he wasn't playing
in the games. Yeah,
if he got caught betting on games he was playing in, he'd be done. He would be done.
Yeah, I know. But then you got to also think the reason he wasn't playing was by his own choice.
Yeah.
So then the questions come up. Was that somehow intertwined with the betting? You know what I mean? You open all kinds of doors that you don't want opened.
Correct.
By doing this.
I mean, betting scandal rocked the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Black Sox in baseball way back in the day? They all got caught gambling or whatever. Pete Rose. You can't gamble on the sport you play on. That's just well known. So it sucks for him, but to be honest, I don't really feel bad for the guy.
No, I don't either. You're going to do something stupid like that, you run the risk of getting caught.
Yeah.
You get caught. That's the thing. If you don't want to take the chance of a harsh punishment, don't do something you know will get you punished if you get caught.
Yeah.
Simple.
So rough day to be Calvin Ridley. And it kind of sucks for the Browns if we were looking into that, because I think he's really good and he could have helped. The only person that people really helped was the Falcons, because he's suspended. He's not part of their roster, and now they're under the salary cap.
Yeah.
And originally they were above.
Yeah.
So right. The Falcons made out. They're probably the ones who told on him. They narked. But sucks for him, sucks for us. The only people it doesn't suck for is the Falcons.
Yep, pretty much.
But, well, before we move on, you want to tell us about DraftKings?
Yeah, I can do that. College basketball fans, join the action on the court during the biggest tournament of the year with DraftKings Sportsbook. Turn your team's victory into your own big win. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. It's that simple. If they win, you win. And it's funny that we just talked about sports betting and now we're promoting it.
Hey, we don't play in the league.
We don't play in the league, so it's all good.
Yeah.
If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still join the college hoops action with DraftKings pools. Everyone can play free pools all March long for a shot at a share of over $250,000 in prizes. Simply join a pool and answer questions like who will make it to the next round and who will hit the most three-pointers, then track your results. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. And before we move on to whatever you had next, if I'm jumping out of line, stop me. But I wanted to mention some other wide receivers that are also off the table for the Browns.
Okay, good.
So Chris Godwin.
Yep, franchise tag.
We talked about him. No longer available. Mike Williams.
Yeah, big deal.
Big deal. Not sure if I'd have done it if I was the Chargers, but it's okay. I'm not making those decisions. Devontae Adams.
He got franchise
tagged. Yep. I'm sure they'll work something out now that somebody else signed there for a while.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. I'm trying to see if there were any other big name wide receivers that are now. I think those were pretty much it.
So we're going to get into here, like, some of the quarterbacks that have been traded and who's left. Just before we get into it, are you a little bit worried that the Browns' biggest move so far is franchise tagging our second string tight end?
I mean, you talk about these moves, and it's not like we're in free agency yet. So
correct.
It's not like any of these moves are who got out there and signed the best available guys first.
And there's nothing we can do about teams franchise tagging their players.
No, yeah, like Devontae Adams, we can't touch that.
Yep. Chris Godwin, there's nothing we can do about it. But I'm really hoping the Browns are aggressive once free agency hits. I do not want to be a team that just sits on their hands. That's not what gets it done anymore.
Well, we realize we have, I would say, what do you think? 3 pretty essential areas of need on the roster.
Well, receiver, D-end, and kicker.
Okay, we have 4. We have 3 major needs that could be addressed right now.
Okay.
Or that some of these other teams are addressing, and it is edge rusher, wide receiver, and quarterback, like we've talked about. So, yeah, some of these teams are jumping out and making moves. Why don't we just dive into some of the names, and we'll kind of go along.
So the first thing that happened this week was Rodgers re-signing with the Packers. I'm starting to think this was all just his end game plan. 4-year, $200 million contract. Makes him the highest paid player per year in the league. This was the end game. He was never leaving.
And I said that before. I said I'd be shocked if he's not playing in Green Bay. And I think that cleanse he went on was just to make up room for more money. Because he's obviously got it now. So good for him.
That was I think the further it got into the offseason, you started hearing more and more rumors about he's just going to go back to Green Bay.
Yeah.
There was talk about, well, now he's really torn. He was never torn. It was about getting a huge bag. Jordan Love he's kind of like the backup quarterback from Blue Mountain State. He's got the best job in pro sports. He's just getting paid and he never has to do anything.
And they came out and said they have no plans of trading him either. And I think there are teams in the NFL who would take a shot on a former first-round quarterback who's not played at all.
That is
going into his third year.
That is something I would want no part of.
I'm not saying the Browns should be one of those teams, but I'm saying there are teams, I'm sure.
But so good for Rodgers. I mean, I wouldn't say no to an extra $200 million.
I mean, if that's what they were going to offer me, I'd take it.
Then the big move was the Seahawks trading Russell Wilson to the Broncos for 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 3 players, including Noah Fant.
Yeah.
That's given up a lot. And then they got Russell Wilson, and I think a 4th rounder back.
I think that's right.
But to be honest, I don't think they overpaid.
There's an argument to be made either way. It's a steep price.
It's definitely a steep price.
It's a steep. The thing is, it kind of depends on what team pays that price. I think for the Broncos, it makes sense. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they said, well, they gave up a lot for Russell Wilson. I said, yeah, but look at their roster.
Yes.
Look at what they didn't give up. They don't need all those draft picks right now. What they need is a quarterback.
Correct.
They have all the receivers they need. Their running game is great. They've got, a decent O-line. Their defense is young and not bad at all.
Probably getting Von Miller back.
Yeah. So just get a quarterback. They're not worried about who they're picking in the first round this year or next year.
Correct.
They don't care.
Yes, because there's a chance if he stays healthy and things go the way, you would think they're going to be picking at the end of the first round anyways.
Yep.
I'm not saying they're favorites to win the Super Bowl now, but they're favorites to make a run.
Well, they had the 9th pick in this year's draft. So that's what Seattle now has. But
okay.
Do you want to pick in the top 10 again next year? Or would you rather have a quarterback and pick at the back end of the first round?
Exactly.
I'll take the quarterback in the late round pick. Thank you. You know what I'm saying?
100%. I that's why I don't. And I think it was a good move by Seattle because they got a haul.
Yeah.
And they got a good tight end. They released Bobby Wagner then the next day. So they're in a complete rebuild.
They're in a rebuild, but I did hear a rumor that they are I don't know how true it is, but that they're interested in Deshaun Watson.
That would be a game changer.
And they have the draft capital to go get him. So I don't know if that's a thing or not.
And they're in the NFC, so the Texans might be more likely to go out there to trade him there. That would be, you put Deshaun Watson on that team. I think the biggest problem with the Seahawks is their offensive philosophy. They have Lockett, they got DK. Their running game their line's bad.
They have Noah Fant.
They'll have Noah Fant now. You put Deshaun Watson on that team. I'd like to say they should be able to score, but they just had Russell Wilson.
And they didn't score.
So, but it depends on, do they adjust their offensive philosophy at all if they get a guy like Deshaun Watson? That would be kind of a game changer. If that's what they're thinking in the back of their mind, like we can part with Russell because we know if they got to roll out Geno Smith or Drew Lock, that's a rebuild. That's a big time rebuild.
Yep. 100%.
So we'll see how that, especially because their offensive line is probably one of the weaker parts of their team. So you probably don't want to put Drew Lock back there. He's athletic, but Russell Wilson's way more athletic than him, and he was still running for his life.
Yeah, I think Drew Lock has pretty much sealed his fate in the NFL.
He couldn't be successful with those receivers. And now the biggest problem in Denver is a lot of times those receivers are hurt. So that'll be the big thing this year. You bring Russell in, you need those guys to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good deal for both teams. The Broncos, like you said, are one of the teams in the league that could afford to give up things like that because they could afford it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if a rich person buys a Lamborghini, they probably didn't overpay. They had the money. They could afford it. If I went and bought a Lamborghini, yes, I overpaid. I'm now going to be broke.
Right.
I'm going to be living in that car. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? If you can afford it, the more money they could afford it. They had the draft capital, they had the assets, and now they paid for it, but they're not broke. They're still going to be contenders.
And what's interesting, and I keep forgetting about this, is they got a new head coach this year.
Yeah.
So,
an offensive minded guy.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that Denver we said all along, if Denver had a quarterback, they'd be somewhat contending for at least playoffs, if not more. So.
What's really crazy now is if you look at the AFC West, the worst quarterback in that division is now Derek Carr.
Ooh.
And I think Derek Carr's pretty good.
That's a tough division.
Yeah. I mean, I think Derek Carr is probably like an 11 to 13 range quarterback in the league, and he's the worst one in the division by kind of like a far margin. I mean, Mahomes, Herbert, and Russell are all significantly better than Derek Carr. That's crazy.
Now, I mean, as far as being in the AFC North with the Browns right now, I guess that's kind of good because hopefully the AFC West will start to eat itself, kind of like the North did last year, where nobody really wanted to take first place. It was pretty even keel the whole way.
We'll see. Normally, I say if you have the fourth best quarterback in your division, you're probably not going to be very good. That's what I say about the Browns. But those are. I mean, you're looking at 4 of the top, even if we're just being conservative, 15 quarterbacks in the league are all in one division.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So
that's something to watch.
That's going to be an interesting division. And a team like the Raiders made the playoffs this year.
Yeah, they did,
and they definitely shouldn't have. So and they got a new coach, new offensive coach.
Yep.
So we'll see how the AFC West is going to be interesting this year.
Yeah,
it's going to be really interesting. Another big move that I guess there was rumblings about it, but it wasn't really on my radar, was the Colts trade Carson Wentz to the Commanders, the Commies. And I think it was for 2 third-round picks, something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So on the TikTok I made yesterday, I said I thought in both of these situations, both teams, or all 4 teams, kind of won. Like it was win-win for everybody. I said that, the Commanders got a definite quarterback upgrade. I like Taylor Heineke, but Carson Wentz is definitely better.
Yeah.
And the Colts got rid of a guy that they didn't want anymore. I will say this, though. The Colts are way worse off now today than they were yesterday.
They are, but from all the reports I've read, they just wanted nothing to do with him. I guess the reports came out in Philadelphia when he was still there 2 years ago, that he was just a nightmare in the locker room. He was a headache behind the scenes, poor leadership, griping all the time, all this kind of stuff, right? So he gets traded to Indianapolis. He gets to reunite with Frank Reich, who had him playing at an MVP level. You heard all that BS last year, when he was coaching him in Philly. So he goes to reunite with Frank Reich, and what happens? He's there for a year, and they ditch him. So there's got to be truth to those reports that he is some head case behind the scenes.
Especially because this was supposed to be like the reunion that saved Carson Wentz's career.
Yep.
And lost.
I don't think he played bad last year.
Oh, he's 27-7 QB to interception ratio. I mean, honestly, until the last 2 games of the year, he was playing pretty well.
You're right. Yeah, he did.
The last 2 games is what really overshadowed them. I mean, they lost to Jackson. All they had to do is beat Jacksonville. They go to the playoffs and they lost.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's bad. But I think if you're Washington now, they got some weapons. I mean, Terry McLaurin's probably the best receiver Wentz has ever played with.
Yeah. I would think so.
They got Gibson if he can stay healthy. They should have a pretty good defense. Chase Young comes back. Sweat. I mean, they got some pieces. So if he can have a 27-7 season, Washington could make a run at Dallas.
Oh, especially in their division. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I just think the Colts are really. I mean, who's going to be their quarterback? I've heard they're going to try to go get Jimmy G.
Yeah. Did you hear the rumors about Jimmy G today, though?
No.
I saw a thing that said within the next 2 days, expectations are he's being traded to the Saints.
Okay. I did see that.
Okay.
So I think the 49ers are going to get a haul for him because he's kind of like the last name out there that's available other than Deshaun.
And maybe Kirk Cousins.
Maybe.
I guess.
Maybe. But we don't know if Kirk's actually available. We know Jimmy G's available.
Correct.
So
correct.
What do the Colts do? The Colts have a pretty good roster, but who's going to play quarterback?
Well, I mean, if they identify a quarterback in the draft that they like, this is the year they could get one without having to be in the top 15 pick.
You would think, but there's always a run on QBs.
There is.
Even in years where people say no, people reach.
Well, yeah, that's true. But still, I think there's enough. I guess if they identify a guy, they're like, I think that's the guy we could roll with, and it's not one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks, they could probably get him in the late teens or early 20, wherever they're picking.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, hey, these teams trade quarterbacks nowadays. Like, they make some blockbuster trades, so we'll see.
It's just, what a time to be alive. I mean, for a league that is so QB dependent nowadays, for a team to just trade away a guy who played pretty decent last year to have nothing in the reserves and to just trade him away. What does that say about that guy? And they traded.
Yeah, exactly.
Would they trade a first and a third to get him?
Yes.
And 1 year later, they trade him away for 2/3?
Yes.
I mean, what did he do?
I'm telling you, man, I've read some things that he is just not a cool dude to be around. He's kind of I'm thinking of a word starts with a B. And I got a niche.
I mean, not that long ago, he was going to be MVP.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not long ago.
And then Nick Foles went on to win a Super Bowl with that team, and it hasn't been the same since.
Yeah. Actually, I did read something about in Philly, he was not pleased that they won the Super Bowl with Foles.
Without him?
Yeah.
Like that he was hoping they would lose?
Something like that along those lines, yeah.
You have to think it made him look not as vital. Yes. Correct. And if he's got ego problems already, that didn't help.
No, that would really hurt.
So interesting. Well, that's a very interesting trade for a team to just give away a slightly above average quarterback with the potential to play at an MVP level.
Yep.
To just give him away a year after trading away first round pick for him. That's just crazy.
It is. It's nuts.
So I think that leaves the market. We'll see if Jimmy G goes to the Saints. One thing, too, I've heard rumors like a lot of teams are waiting. The last big quarterback now, other than Jimmy G, that is going to potentially go somewhere is Deshaun Watson. And I guess he has a court hearing tomorrow where a lot of teams are kind of waiting to see how that goes. I guess evidence is going to be presented to the grand jury, and that's where they'll decide if it's going to go to trial or not. I haven't watched Law & Order in a while, so
you don't know how that works.
But I'm pretty sure the grand jury's who hears the evidence, and then they decide if it should go to trial or not.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So if they decide not to go to trial tomorrow, it's going to pretty much all get dropped, I would assume. So he's going to immediately become a hot target.
Yeah, and then at that point, the only thing would be whether or not the league takes any action on its own, right?
Correct. But you would have to think, what precedence would they have to suspend him if
there's no charges?
Yes. So you'd be suspending him for hearsay, essentially, of what people have said about him, but
True.
That other people have already decided didn't have enough anything behind it to do anything about it.
Correct.
So it would be that'd be maybe a little sketchy, but we'd have to see. I did read a thing from somebody that said if they don't go to trial or whatever, and it's pretty much done Friday, they expect the Browns to be in play. I also heard that the Steelers were going to be in play, but then I also read a thing that said the Steelers don't have any interest in him, which I don't believe. Why would you not have interest in him? My thought process on this is you can't let him go to the Steelers without at least putting up a fight. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't buy the reports that the Steelers are happy with Mason Rudolph.
Correct.
In any way, shape, or form. Because if me as a Browns fan is rooting for Mason Rudolph to be their quarterback, there's no way they're happy with him being their quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's that awful.
Yeah, that's you can't let Watson go to the Steelers then and just sit on your hands. If now Watson has a no trade clause, so if he says, I'm not going to Cleveland, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Or if he says he's okay with coming to Cleveland and the Steelers just give so much the Browns can't match it. Okay, but let's not find out the Steelers could go and get him for something that we easily could have matched or gone more, and then they have another quarterback who could potentially dominate us for 20 years again.
Yeah, and I think one thing to keep in mind is just because he has a no trade clause doesn't mean he gets to pick where he goes. It means he gets to pick where he goes out of whoever the Texans agree to trade with.
Correct.
So if they agree to trade with the Browns, then he gets the option to turn them down. But if the Browns are the only team that they agree to trade with,
And he really wants out.
he has to take it. Otherwise, he's sitting another year and wasting his career again.
Correct.
So, yeah, we just have to make sure if we're going to go for him, we need to know who the other players are and be serious about it.
Yeah, and just don't let him go to Pittsburgh. Don't make it easy on him. Don't make it easy on him. Don't let him just go sign a guy who could play MVP football for the next 10 years. Just don't let it happen.
Yeah, I know.
Could you imagine Deshaun with that defense and they got good receivers? That would suck for us.
Yeah, and they just beef up that O-line just a little bit.
Yeah, that would really, really suck for us.
Yeah, that's the only thing. The only hope we have is that weak O-line, but even with the weak O-line, the Steelers, and a immobile Big Ben, they almost made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be okay with Watson.
Agreed. So enough about the quarterbacks. Another thing I saw on my way in, Khalil Mack, the Bears are working on a trade to send Khalil Mack to the Chargers. I haven't seen any details about what it's going to be for yet, but that's a team taking advantage of having a quarterback on a rookie deal.
Mm-hmm. And that's the AFC West again, beefing it up.
That's going to be if this trade goes through. I mean, the Chargers defense, they're athletic. They got some pieces. They're good. That's going to help. And that's kind of it reminds me of the change of scenery that'll kind of like give a guy like Khalil Mack his second wind. I mean, he's still really good, but a few years ago, he was must-watch TV.
Yeah, he was. And let's see, who's he going to be on that D-line with? Man, is it Nick Bosa or Joey Bosa?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be rough for those other quarterbacks in that division.
Correct. What you need. I think that's something the Chargers, Russell Wilson's in here now.
Mm-hmm.
We got Mahomes.
Yep.
Derek Carr is pretty good. We got to be able to get after the passer. You need a quarterback, and you need a guy who can get after the quarterback.
Yes.
So that's huge. How do you mitigate these world-class quarterbacks in your division? You get guys who can pressure the quarterback.
You have to.
So
You have to.
That'll be interesting to see if that trade goes through, and then how much they gave up to get him. But it's moves like this why I just want the Browns to be aggressive. I want them to be in the mix on these things because the teams that just kind of sit there anymore. They're non-ish.
It's one of those things where if Khalil Mack was available, I wouldn't have hated that.
Especially let's find out what they give up for him.
Yeah, right, exactly.
What if they give up like a first-round pick? So would you trade the 13th pick this year for Khalil Mack?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's already talk of the Browns maybe going edge rusher in the first round. Well, great. We've already talked about first round picks. That's awesome. You get a young guy who with a lot of potential, and you get him for potentially 5 years. It's wonderful. He's on a rookie deal. He might not pan out. Khalil Mack panned out, and he still pans out.
He's not that old.
What is he? 29?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's.
It's not like he's 40,
and he's not like. I don't think he's in his 30s. I could be wrong. Let's see. Okay, I am wrong. He's 31.
Yeah. Oh, he's ancient for you then.
If he was playing running back.
Yeah. That's something I'd be interested in seeing what that deal ends up being. Because like you said, that's a position of need for the Browns, especially with our next topic. It's looking like Clowney's not coming back. So
they did trade him.
It went through?
Yeah, it says 2 draft picks. I'm trying to see. They took the Chargers' second round pick.
That's all it took?
You go ahead and talk about Clowney. Let me read through this real quick.
So we're doing this on the fly.
Well, this is just happening now. Yeah.
So the rumors are that it's looking like Clowney's likely not returning to the Browns. That would leave the starting defensive line for the Browns as Garrett, Elliott, Tagai, and Joe Jackson. That is not good. You look disgusted.
You're about to be. All right. So the Chargers or the Bears got 2 draft picks for Khalil Mack. They got the Bears or the Chargers 2nd round pick. What other pick do you think they got?
Like a 5th?
Next year's 6th rounder.
Oh my God. You know what
man.
You know what I tell people that
we just said we would trade the 13th pick for him.
You know what's crazy? So I'm in real estate. What I tell my clients is you can't get what you don't ask for. Classic scenario. The Browns clearly weren't asking.
Yeah.
The Chargers just reached out, picked up the phone, and said, "Hey, what would it take?" You can't get what you don't ask for.
I think we have like 2 4th round picks this year. I don't remember exactly all the picks we have. I'd have easily given up a 2nd and a 5th.
Yeah. Talk about getting fleeced. What are the Bears doing?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Reloading on youth, maybe. But seriously, if that's the going price for a guy like Khalil Mack, and the Browns have a huge gap on the other side of that line,
yeah.
What the heck?
Why would we not? If you are hearing rumors that Khalil Mack could be potentially available, I hope we were at least on the phone.
I hope we didn't hear anything about it. I hope we didn't even know. And this is a shock to them too, because otherwise, I'm a little ticked.
You
guys are seeing this in live time. Like we didn't talk about this because it just happened. So
yes, you guys are going to see this, later after it happened. It just happened right here while we were recording.
Join the after hours. We'll tell you what we really think.
That's a get for the Chargers, man. That's a big time get.
Yeah, it's huge.
Even if he isn't what he was 4 or 5 years ago, he's still. Look what Von Miller just did for the Rams in their Super Bowl push.
The Chargers just did what the Browns need to do.
Yes.
They got to shore up that other side of the line, especially with what you were just talking about with Clowney.
How do you feel about a defensive line of Garrett, Elliott, Tagai, and Joe Jackson?
I feel not good.
I feel so bad about that it makes me think that 13 in this year's draft might be defense.
I am thinking that way too, as much as I want one of those top stud receivers there. They might have to finagle a trade back into the first round if they want to get somebody later, but they might have to go defense. That's
not, unless like Elliott and Tagai make huge jumps, that's a bad defensive line.
Yeah, it's not, it's not going to work. Clowney solidified that run defense last year. It was so good.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be able to handle it as a Browns fan if we take another step back. No. I'm going to lose it, man.
This season was already hard enough.
I know. Season 3 of the Dogs, another step back for the Browns. Oh,
if it's a step back, we'll just be in here like super drunk. There'll be like whiskey bottles laying everywhere.
The after hours will just be the public episode.
We'll be disheveled and we'll look like we're homeless.
Yeah, pretty much.
We can't handle that.
Zach and Justin still won't be here.
They won't even watch the Browns anymore, probably.
Yeah.
So I guess then the last thing I was going to, pose the question to you is, what's the Browns' biggest need then come free agent draft time? Is it receiver or is it D-line if Clowney's not coming back?
How do you pick one? You look at the receiver side. Yes, we still have Jarvis.
For now.
Don't think we're going to, though. Other than if Jarvis is gone, we have DPJ. That's your number one receiver. We kind of need somebody else. Probably 3 other guys. So, I don't know, man. What do you think?
It's tough. It's really tough.
I would honestly have to say receiver just because I don't think we can roll into the season with DPJ as our number one.
No, so you go DPJ number 1. Is Schwartz or 2 now?
I guess. Hey, I did see that we signed Jamarcus Bradley.
Okay.
So maybe he's in the mix. I don't know, but we don't have Higgins anymore.
Splash move.
Yeah.
Splash move, Jamarcus Bradley.
Smart money, playing it cheap, right?
Yeah. I agree. It would have to be receiver, but the defensive line, what happens if you get to 13 and the guy from Georgia is still there? And then you got Wilson or Davis.
It just depends on free agency, and then it's your draft board. You go in with a plan. At 13, it's much easier to go in with a plan than it was last year at 7 we were at, or 6, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Because at 13, you can kind of say, okay, if these 12 guys are gone, this is who we're picking. You can kind of do a little bit more pre-configuration of scenarios that'll play out.
I think if the Cowboys go ahead and release Amari Cooper, the Browns need to be in play for him.
If the Cowboys release Amari Cooper and the Browns don't go straight after him,
I don't know what we're doing.
I don't know, man.
And the thing is Amari Cooper is a very good receiver. Is he a top 5? No, probably not. But go look at Dak Prescott's numbers when he plays with Amari and then when he plays without Amari.
Yeah.
There's a huge drop-off. When he's in there, he is a dependable guy, and he helps he's one of the most important pieces on their offense.
He's a super consistent receiver when he's on the field. That's his only problem, is being on the field.
Correct. But that's the kind of guy, if we really want to, if Baker's the guy this year, we truly want to evaluate him, then go get a guy like that who's shown to be, a QB helper.
Yes.
So if they really do release him, which is just crazy for me to think about, because Dak's numbers are significantly worse when he doesn't play.
Yeah.
Significantly worse.
I know. They have a lot of money tied up on that offense. I saw today they were looking to trade Conor McGregor, their guard.
I didn't know Conor McGregor played.
Oh, not him. What's his name then? Conor McGovern?
I don't even know.
I think it's McGovern. I don't know. Either way, one of their guys on the offensive line there, they're looking to trade. I think they said he's making $10 million a year, and they're trying to shave that off.
That's rough. They put all of that money into the offense, and then the offense was crap this year, the last 8 games of the season.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It is.
So go make a run at Amari, and then it makes the draft. You can go into a season with Amari and DPJ. I'd still like another piece, but imagine if you could go in with like a Garrett Wilson, Amari, and DPJ is like your 3.
Yeah.
I'd like to keep Jarvis.
I know.
And then DPJ be your 4. That to me would be best case scenario.
Well, that'd be solid right there.
Yeah. So I do want to touch a lot of these receivers ran crazy fast at the combine. Like Olave ran insane fast. His official time ended up being like 4.3 something. It was originally 4.26, which is insane.
They said he solidified himself in the first round.
Yeah.
That's what they're predicting.
A lot of people were saying, oh, he ran that speed. You got to go get him. He's better than Wilson now. Pump the brakes. They were literally on the same team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We watched them play football together. Just because I looked at the top 5 fastest combine runners, the only one in the top 5 who ever did anything is Chris Johnson. All the rest of them are busts. Running your fast 40 does not translate to being a good NFL football player.
Ask Anthony Schwartz. We took the fastest guy in the combine last year, and
he looked lost.
Yippee. That was fun.
The fastest, I think one of the fastest ones ever is John Ross. How'd he do?
Nothing.
You know what I mean? So if you go look at the top 5 fastest times at the draft or at the combine, the only one who really ever did anything was Chris Johnson.
Yep.
And he was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But everybody else, pretty much a bust.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not putting a ton. It's great that he ran fast, but I'm not putting a ton of stock into people's 40 times.
And the thing is, I already know that Chris Olave is going to be successful in the NFL just by watching him at Ohio State. He's one of the best route runners I've ever seen coming out of college. He's got great hands. He is a silky smooth receiver.
Yeah.
When he runs routes, he looks like he's gliding over the field.
He's super smooth to the point where it doesn't look like he's really running hard, but he ran a 4.3 something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's a smooth operator.
He is.
I think Garrett is potentially more explosive. So that's the one I kind of want, but I don't think you go wrong with either one.
I did do a mock draft the other night, and I ended up with an A- grade on it.
Oh, yeah? He's taken round 1.
I did get Garrett Wilson at 13, but then I took Drake Jackson, the edge rusher, out of USC in the second round.
Okay.
He was there. I don't know if he's going to be there in the Browns pick. I don't know. I need to read more about him, but I have heard good things about him.
I think one thing we did see, though, with last year's draft, Andrew Berry is good at manipulating the draft, of getting JOK late, staying packed and getting Newsome, getting JOK in the second. So I'm not worried about our strategy when it comes to draft time.
Right.
I just wanted to see us be aggressive once free agency opens.
Yeah, it's free agency, and it's like, are there any of these trades, Khalil Mack? Are there any of these players, these veterans in the league that we could get that would be available for a second and a sixth? Crying out freaking loud. You know what I mean? I don't know. We got to find those guys.
I completely agree. Well, that pretty much wraps up everything I had to talk about today. Thank God the NFL provided us with a busy week.
It was crazy this week.
It's like every day something dropped. I mean, I almost forgot about Calvin Ridley, and because it felt like
it was so long ago. Yeah.
So big week for the NFL.
Yeah. So just a couple others. Tyler Huntley was re-signed by the Ravens put a tender on him, I think they said.
Yep.
So I know we talked about him a little bit last year just because he did look good when he played. Again, in Baltimore, Villanueva, their lineman, he retired, which I think he was a little bit young. I was a little shocked that he retired.
He's only been in the league like 6 or 7 years, but
yeah.
I mean, he wasn't that good anymore.
Yeah, it did kind of drop off a little bit. Bobby Wagner, Seattle, he was cut. Would you make a run at Bobby Wagner?
For sure.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
All right. I'm just trying to see if there's any other names of note here. I think that's pretty much it for now. The Browns re-signed Blake Hance, Jamarcus Bradley, and Michael Dunn. So maybe we ought to make a splash.
Yeah, for sure. We got to do something because all these other teams are getting better. You can't sit on your hands. You got to, and again, it's early. We're not panicking. The off season hasn't even really.
No, free agency opens up next week.
I just want to see, once it does open, I want to see us be aggressive.
Yes, please.
So let us know what you guys think. Is there anybody you're targeting in free agency? Is there anybody, like a Khalil Mack that we didn't really know was available that you think the Browns should try to make a run at? What do you think about these QB trades? Who do you think won? Who do you think lost? Did anybody overpay? Just let us know what you guys think about this last week in the NFL. Pretty crazy week considering the new season hasn't even started yet. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. Jump in, leave a voicemail, thedogspodcast.com. You'll see in the top right corner, there's a little drop-down menu. Just hit leave voicemail. You can drop us an intro. You can drop us a voicemail. We'll talk about it. Leave us your thoughts. If you're looking to get more interactive with the show, head to Join the Dogs, become a Patreon member. To all you dog members, we will see you on the After Hours show. And to everybody else, we will see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter at the Dogs Podcast and become an official Dog Pack member at jointhedogs.com.